Hi, this is Nigel Glockler from Saxon, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast. Yeah, get it on.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We'd like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Nigel Glockler of Saxon.
Yeah, promoting Saxon's newest cover album, More Inspirations.
Yep.
They're also promoting their new European festival tour.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was a wonderful interview. And they've also had a couple other albums out in the last couple of years, too, correct?
Yeah, Inspirations and then Carpe Diem, all original stuff.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. So, hey, let's get to that interview.
All right, good night.
Good night. Nigel, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce you, my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Nigel, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, thanks for asking me. Great.
Hey, we're so excited to have you. Thank you for the correspondence. Thank you for your willingness to participate. Just ecstatic to have a member of Saxon on the podcast tonight.
No, again, as I said, thank you very much, guys, for asking me. It's always a pleasure.
Fantastic. Well, let's get right into it. Saxon is preparing for a summer European festival tour. Can you give our listeners a insight on what festivals Saxon will be participating in, and what countries are you going to be visiting?
We're going to be going to. Oh God, now you've got me. We've got Greece, Germany, Sweden. One of the big ones that we're doing, the German one, is Bang Your Head. That's going to be a 40th anniversary show that got postponed, because of the pandemic and stuff. So that's going to be a good one. But yeah, we're all over Europe. So. Oh,
very good. With Saxon being the heritage act that it is, what is the band's preference when it comes to touring methodology? Is the preference festivals, or do you do those weekend flyout dates, or do you guys ever get in the bus the old-fashioned way and tour around the country, or a country? Oh
yeah, we do. We do the tour bus. Yeah, when we go on tour, we get the tour bus, and that's how we do it. Personally, from a point of view, I actually prefer to be on a tour bus than have hotels, because after a show, for instance, it takes you a while for the adrenaline to come down, for you to come down. So I might go to bed at like 2:30, something like that. Mm-hmm. But I can wake up and I'm outside the next gig. I'm there. Whereas if you use a hotel, I've got to go back to the hotel. I've got to, again, the adrenaline's got to die down. And then I've got to get up early and travel to the next show.
Exactly. Yeah, very well.
So I prefer that. Sometimes if there's days off, then we have hotels.
On your tours, what's one of your most favorite venues that you've ever played?
Oh God, I mean, Hammersmith Odeon's a great venue. I mean, there's so many. I mean, all around the world is different ones. Some venues are great from a point of view of acoustics. There was a gig in Leicester de Montfort Hall actually, which we did quite recently, and I mean that was always, when I first joined the band, actually that was always one of my favourite shows because you always got this kickback from the back of the hall, sound wise. But no, I mean, it's a lot of gigs are just really cool.
Yeah, very good. As far as you playing live shows now here post COVID-19 pandemic restrictions, how has it been for you and the rest of the band? What have you noticed? Is it just back to the norm, or have you noticed any still lingering people wearing masks or socially distancing or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, initially, there was a lot of social distancing and everything, particularly at festivals and stuff. Because, but I mean, I still, myself, I sort of try and I mask up backstage a lot if there's a lot of people around. But we've got to the point actually now, which is different from before, that we don't have a lot of people backstage. You just can't, because you've got to be safe, because, don't forget, I mean, if one of us gets it, or even one of the crew get it, that's the tour gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to be careful,
Absolutely. Saxon has released 3 albums since 2021. You've released Inspirations, Carpe Diem, and More Inspirations. That's a ton of material to record in a short amount of time. And I know, Inspirations and More Inspirations are covers, but still, I mean, you guys have been working hard recording music and making these covers, these songs yours. Your work rate is incredible. Can you talk a little bit more about it?
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, what happened was I'd done, we were sort of recording. I was doing the drum tracks for Carpe Diem at the end of 2019, right? Mm-hmm. Because the plan was that the record company were then going to release it the following spring, something like that, February, whatever. But then the pandemic hit. And they didn't want us to release it because we couldn't tour.
Right.
And I mean, that's part and parcel of why you go on tour. You're going on to promote your latest album, a lot of the time. And so we'd sort of been toying around with the idea. So, between the band and the record company, they said, well, we've got this release slot now that Carpe Diem's not going to be in there. Why don't you do a covers album? So that's how that came about. Which incidentally then gave us more time to sort of finally hone. We sort of did a few little changes to Carpe Diem. It gave a little more time for Carpe Diem because we'd had that covers album, in the gap.
I just want to talk about the opening track on there, Carpe Diem Seize the Day, that little intro, the drum sound, like just massive drum sound, almost like a beat, what do you call that, a battle beat or battle rhythm. Can you just talk a little bit about the drums on that track?
What the actual play on?
Yeah.
The beginning of it with the horns and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was something that I wrote that actually in my little studio at home.
Nice.
So I did that, and then we sort of just spliced it onto, and then you've got the big drum fill going into the main song. But I wanted to convey this sort of impending, it sort of opens up with, it sort of could be, the Roman soldiers sitting around a fire or something, at Hadrian's Wall or something. But then you get, the battle drums. It's the impending doom,
Yeah, I loved it.
and then there's the main drum fill, and all hell lets loose. Then.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, with Saxon releasing More Inspirations this past March, like I said, the band piggybacked on from the 2021 release of Inspirations. Can you talk a little bit more about recording 2 covers / tribute albums of sorts, and those classic songs? How did you guys take those songs and make them yours. I mean, they're fantastic covers, but you guys really took them and made those songs yours.
Yeah, we kind of, I would say we kind of Saxonized them.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're automatically going to get that anyway, even if we weren't recording something, because, the five of us, that's how we sound. So you're automatically going to get that. You're going to get that sound anyway, because that's how we are. There's no sort of formula to it. That's just how we sound. We could play anything and it'll sound like us, because that's, what we are. But it was very interesting, sorting out what tracks to do. Everyone sort of put in 2 or 3 tracks that had inspired them, in the past, whether to start, become a musician or stuff that was inspiring them. So, and we worked through everyone's sort of preferences, and those were the songs that really sort of fitted together, and we could make sound good.
Oh, very good.
Well, I know Carpe Diem was recorded, I think, in like 3 different studios. What about the Inspiration albums? Did you guys record those separately or together, or how to work?
No, the Inspirations album, that was mostly done in 2 studios, actually. Yeah. We did the backing tracks in one, and I think a lot of the guitars were done elsewhere, I think. But I mean, once I get the drums done, I'm gone. I get out of the way. I'm not going to sit there endlessly day after day listening to, rhythm guitars and stuff. But or again, I go, and then, for instance, like, I'll get what I have to do, and then for instance, with Carpe Diem, that's when I go home and I'll write the intros, sort of thing, while they're getting on with other things, So, no, I mean, it was the drums for Inspiration. More Inspirations were, done at the same studio, and a lot of the guitars were done there too. So, I mean, we like to work pretty fast.
Well, speaking of that, since 2011, the band's Call to Arms album, you guys have released a monumental amount of music since 2011. I mean, you guys are working like you're still in your 30s. Can you just talk a little bit about the songwriting and recording process for you guys? I mean, just in general, the songwriting to come up with so much music and such, I guess, you think about it, it's been, 11, 12 years now. That's just a massive amount of work. How do you do it?
We enjoy it. I mean, everyone in the band writes. But so that, sort of, we'll sort of go, oh, here's an idea I've got, and someone will say, no, here's an idea I've got, and everyone listens to them, and then we work on them. I mean, that's how it does. But we just enjoy music, I mean, I've said this before. I said, if you don't enjoy something or have fun doing it, don't do it. And we do. And we enjoy creating the music and the songs, and we enjoy being in a band with each other. We're good friends.
Yeah,
we're not like one of these bands where everyone hates everyone, sort of thing. Occasionally, if you've been on tour maybe for 8 weeks, you sort of get sick to the sight of other people. You just want to go home and give me a break from these people, But no, I mean, generally we enjoy it, I mean, and on stage, we're very serious. But again, we have a laugh too. We enjoy it. You'll see a lot of smiling at Saxon gigs, Yeah,
very much so.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I saw one picture. I think you had a pretty massive kit where it was pretty almost surrounding you a little bit. But can you talk about your drum kit and what makes you go with such a big kit over a smaller kit? How's that work for you?
I guess it was just the drummers that I was kind of influenced by, that sort of, and I get off on sound.
Yeah.
So if I've got high-pitched toms or something, I can sort of throw them into a fill. It's suddenly like, whoa, here it comes up, going right round. I mean, I've been playing a large kit for quite a long time now. It's just what I'm used to, I find it quite sort of frustrating sometimes to get on a regular 4-piece, for instance.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh my God, you know. Yet at other times I see people that can play those kits, you know, like Mike Vanderhool from Y&T. I mean, he plays a small kit and he's phenomenal, you know. But it's just what I'm used to. And, you know, I have lots of little bell cymbals and just things because I get off on sound.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Well, we're going to really switch gears on you here. We'll talk about you in the early 90s. You contributed to Steve Howe's Turbulence album and Asia's Aqua album. You know, how was it?
Yeah.
How was it for you to leave the heavy metal realm and go into more of a proggier sound?
Well, I've always, funnily enough, I mean, I've always been into prog, right? I mean, prior to Saxon, I was in a band called Toyah, which I suppose the closest thing, you know, which we were sort of new wave, in a way, I suppose quite similar to, I suppose the nearest thing I could sort of equate it to was maybe Susie and the Banshees.
Oh.
You know, that sort of thing. And so I was getting off on all these sort of new wave bands like Japan and you know, and things like that. But at the same time, I was always listening to rock. You know, I mean, I introduced Phil, our bass player from Toyah. I introduced him to Moving Pictures by Rush, and after that, he never stopped playing it.
Yeah.
Because he just wasn't in that kind of movement, you know. He was like a new way. I mean, brilliant bass player. He went on to, I was in GTR with him, you know, with Steve Howe.
Yes.
And no, I mean, I don't know. So I was always a bit of a prog head. I was always into, you know, bands like Genesis and stuff. In fact, Genesis is still my favorite ever band, you know. So that I was always into that kind of thing, and also, I mean, I wouldn't call myself initially a heavy metal drummer. I mean, I was listening to stuff like Billy Cobham and jazz fusion, you know.
Yeah.
But again, and then I was like sort of smacking out the drums, you know, imagining I was Bill Ward, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so. That's how that came. So, I mean, I just get off on playing different types of stuff. You know, I just enjoy playing, full stop, you know. And, I mean, Jeff Downes was producing the second GTR album, which never sort of saw the light of day. But it was after that. I mean, first of all, when the GTR thing sort of went down the pan, which was a very political thing going on behind the curtain, shall we say. Behind the scene, we didn't know anything about it. And then Steve rang me up and said, you know, I've got to do this track. There was an album called Guitar Speak, which I think Miles Copeland's label was bringing it out. So Steve Howe was doing a track on it, Ronnie Montrose, Leslie West, lots of different guitarists were doing one track on this thing. So I went in and did a track with him on that. And then the next thing he said, oh, you know, can you do a couple of tracks on Turbulence? So I did that. And interestingly enough, actually, he's I spoke to him, about a month ago, something like that. And because we keep in touch all the time. And he said we had when we were doing the GTR album, he's got a jam of him, me and Phil in the studio pre-doing any recording, and he actually recorded it, and I think he's going to put it on an anthology this year or next year. So I haven't even heard it yet, but he says it's brilliant.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, since you brought up Phil Spalding, we had him on the podcast, I guess maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, and what a genuine guy. I mean, just a wonderful human being. And if people don't realize that his passing this past year.
Terrible.
Absolutely. Can you talk a little bit more about your, I guess maybe your working relationship with Phil and also your friendship with him?
Yeah. No, I mean, Phil was, you know, he was, we all sort of, me, Phil, and Adrian Lee, the keyboard player, we sort of went into Toyah at the same time. So it was like, I think Phil knew Joel beforehand, who was the guitarist. But no, I mean, Phil was great. You know, he was a brilliant bass player, stunning bass player, you know, and he was great to work. He was very intense at times, but that's just the way he was, you know, when you were recording. And but he was a brilliant bass player, and it just goes to show, you know, the number of bands he's played with. It was great because the four of us, the band, decided, because we kept in touch, we all keep in touch. I mean, I'm always in touch with Adrian, the keyboard player. He went on to Mike and the Mechanics and did a load of other stuff. And we sort of thought, oh, sod, let's meet up in London, So we met at this this sort of restaurant place in London, and it was great. And we had the waitress took a picture of us and put it up on the Facebook, and people were going nuts, going, "Oh my God, is the band getting back together again?" It's a real teaser. But I guess now, I mean, not that it happened, but it was interesting. But no, I mean, Phil was great, really great. We'd sort of, we'd try and get to see each other as and when we could, but being in touring bands and stuff, it's very difficult. Because I might be free. He's on tour somewhere, say, as you know, I live in Dallas. Right. And he might be touring England and I'm not over there. And then I'm over in England and he might be in Germany or something. So it was just, hey-ho. But we kept in touch, via phone and stuff. So, yeah, very sad that day was, very sad.
And he was still working with Roger Daltrey in his solo work up to the very end, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was doing a lot of work. No, he's great.
Jeff, you got the next one?
Well, yeah. Besides drumming, you also play bass and keyboards. Can you talk a little bit about your musicianship and which one came first and how's it work for you?
I started playing drums. I think it was 7 or 8 years old. I just had a snare drum and a cymbal or something, I think, and that sort of went on. And then I can't remember what happened. I think my father bought me a little. No, I can't remember. I remember getting like an acoustic guitar, like a cheap acoustic guitar or something, and I think, oh, this is, I was absolutely useless at it, but I found I was always listening to bass on albums. I was always listening to the bass. I mean, the big trick for me was, if I was trying to learn the bass part of something, when it was vinyl, so you had 33 1/3 for an album, I'd speed it up to 45, so then I could hear what the bass was doing. For some reason, it makes it stick out more, so I could hear what it was doing, And then I got a bass guitar, and Paul McCartney was and is still one of my favourite bass players ever. The guy's phenomenal. When I listen to some of those Beatles albums, particularly Rubber Soul, Sgt. Pepper, and all that sort of period. I mean, some of the bass lines are just brilliant,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the only sort of person I can sort of equate to sort of playing lines like that is maybe someone like Mike Rutherford of Genesis,
Yes.
They're not just plodding along on the bloody root note. They're actually they're enhancing the song with their own tune, So I really got into that, but then at school I had to go on a proper drum kit, and I thought, nah, this is me.
I wanted to bring this back to 1987 when you did join up with GTR. I believe you took Jonathan Mover's place on drums for the anticipated second album. And there was a lot of us GTR fans from that debut album were really anticipating this second album. Was there ever going to be enough material on there for those archive songs to ever be released anytime in the future?
Well, actually, it has come out somewhere, because I don't know who released it or whatever, but I mean, someone had something. I got it on eBay, I think. Don't ask me where they got. Basically, what happened was we hadn't quite finished all the recording. We needed about another 4 weeks to finish the recording, and then obviously mix. But I don't know. Maybe it was someone at the studio stole the tapes or whatever. But basically, the sort of cassettes I've got of all the stuff as it was in progress is what came out on CD.
Oh. Gotcha.
Yeah, don't ask me how I don't know where that came from. I have no idea. But it did kind of come out. But it was really annoying because it was going really well, Yeah,
what a bummer, because the debut album was so brilliant, and we were anticipating that second album, and there you go. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the songs on what would have been the second album were better than the first ones, I think.
Absolutely.
But it's very annoying. But again, through that, it was like I met Steve Howe, I mean, I was absolutely shitting bricks the first day I had to rehearse with him.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause it's like, oh my God, I'm in the same room as, like, you know, a member of Yes. I was like, oh. And so that was, and then of course there was Jeff, and then, you know, Jeff asked me to do the stuff for Aqua, and then a couple of extra things. I did a few sessions with Jeff actually, and some of the other tracks came out on the 2 Archiver albums.
Yeah, very good. Question about GTR before we go on to the next question is, whatever happened to Max Bacon? He kind of just never really heard of him after the GTR thing. Yeah,
I mean, Max, he went on some. He was trying to do. He released an album, but it was very much like a lot of it was quite sort of homemade, shall we say? I mean, there was some good stuff on there. But I think he's now living in Spain. I'm in touch with Max, actually.
Oh.
I'm in touch with him. He's out. Yeah, he's out in Spain. He sort of gave up the music business for a while and started running pubs and stuff, you know, in the north of England or Midlands of England. And then he suddenly contacted me. Probably, you know, we did occasionally keep in touch. And he suddenly came out, you know, particularly after Phil died. He contacted me and everything, and. So we're in touch all the time now, you know. But yeah, he's out in Spain.
Oh, very good, very good.
Well, I mean, you've been really busy with Saxon since 1981. But have you ever, looking back over the years, have you ever thought about trying to do a solo? Have you ever had the opportunity to do a solo album or think about it? Or?
I mean, not a. I mean, I did that album with Doug. I don't know if you heard that one. I did that one. But no, I mean, that's as kind of as far as that went. It was just like, you know, we just wanted to do some stuff that had inspired us, you know, because Doug's, you know, a bit of a prog head as well. And we just thought, oh, well, let's do something. We had some time off. So, you know, in sort of gaps. In fact, I think that was what I was during my break from the band, actually, that I really got into that because, you know, I ripped a muscle between my neck and my shoulder. So I had to stop playing for a while. So that's when I started writing this stuff. And the Mad Men and English Dogs came out. We just released it ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
Just for fun, really.
Nice.
You know?
Let's talk about your 1998 pause of your drumming career or your music career due to your injury. Can you talk a little bit more about the injury and the climb back into the world of music?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't stop sort of doing music. I just stopped playing drums a lot, you know, basically. I mean, what happened was, I think it was, you know, we did some shows in, I think it was South America. And obviously my kit didn't go because I think there were a couple of fly-ins or something. So it was rental gear.
Yeah. And
I think it was, you know, maybe reaching for some symbol or something that wasn't normally where it should be, if you know what I mean. It just did a little tweak of my muscle. I didn't feel anything, and I just kept playing, and you know, it was just ripping it apart like a piece of raw steak, basically. That's what my doctor said. Fun. I mean, then we did. I'm trying to think what the tour was. Then we went on tour in the UK and Europe, I think it was. And I actually found when I was playing, it wasn't hurting, but when I was lying down, it was like really painful. Or if I turned over in bed or something like that. I mean, I thought maybe it was something to do with a vertebrae or something. I was going to chiropractors, osteopaths, all sorts of stuff. And in the end, I went to my doctor, and he sort of put his hand on, I don't know what the muscle's called, the one between your neck and your shoulder, that sort of, you know, the raised bit. Yeah. He said, what about this? And after I extricated myself from the ceiling, he said, yeah, you've ripped a muscle there, so you've got to stop playing for a few months, let it heal back. And in that period, I just started writing because I've got to do this. And I started writing music for TV and documentaries, that sort of thing. Cool. You know, sort of what they call library music. I just started doing that. I got in with a company there. A friend of mine introduced me to a company because that was something I really wanted to do anyway. I'm always listening to music on programs. And I got in there and they said, yeah, great, and do stuff. So I started doing that, and then it was in that period that we did the Mad Men album. And I was still writing with the band, with Saxon. I was still writing with them. I started playing drums again and everything, and I went up and, I did an intro on the Metalhead album, a synth intro, and then I co-wrote, I think it was 4 tracks on the Killing Ground album, because Fritz, the drummer they had at the time, he wasn't into writing. So Biff said, oh, come up and do some writing. So I went up there and did that. And so there was never any sort of total split from the band, And then I wrote a couple of things for, what's it called? The album after that, after Killing Ground.
Oh, after Killing Ground, Lionheart.
I sort of started a couple of tracks on there as well when they started writing that. So again, as I said, it wasn't like sort of a total split from the band.
Mm-hmm.
Biff asked me, he said, look, we're playing, the big festival in Germany, Wacken, the big open air one, the metal festival. He said, why don't you come out and get up and do a couple of songs with us? So I thought, yeah, okay. So I flew out there, did that. I sort of sidled on because I hadn't played in front of an audience for like months. So I sort of slithered on like a stealth bomber, just like quietly slithered in there, did my 2 tracks and slithered off again, And I don't know whether anyone noticed it was me or not. I have no idea. But and then I did the same thing in London. They were playing a gig in London, and basically the whole plan was to get me back in the band, I think.
Yeah.
So Biff said, look, we're doing a sort of 80s type tour, all the early albums. Do you want to do it? And I said, yeah. And I thought, well, first of all, let me have a think about it, because I hadn't been on tour for so long. I'm a bit of a homebod, I've got to say, But in the end, I went, yeah, go on, let's do it. And I said to him, he said, initially, yeah, come and do that, and then blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And I'm back totally. And he went, fucking great. That was what he said.
Nice.
That was it. I think they were on tour with Deep Purple at the time. I think they were doing some festivals in Spain. And so I went back.
Oh, very good.
And here we are.
Yeah. Well, with something like 25 albums, how do you guys narrow down a set list? How do you guys pick out songs for your shows?
Oh God, no! That is a nightmare. It really is. But I mean, there's certain songs we've got to play.
Yeah.
But again, you sort of think, why? After all this time, haven't you heard them enough? Because sometimes certain songs we think, well, we have.
Yes.
No, it's no. I mean, it's great. Whatever we play, we just enjoy it because it's the vibe of the moment, But yeah, doing a set list is a nightmare. It really is. I mean, a lot of the times, actually, we change the set. Not every gig, but we'll change the set, and play around with it during a tour.
Have you guys ever taken like an older classic album and you played the whole thing in its entirety?
Yes. Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, we did. We've done all of Denim and Leather. We've done all of Strong Arm of the Law and all of Wheels of Steel.
Nice.
Yeah, very good.
So, but we did actually. What was really cool was we did another time we played Wacken. We played 2 tracks off every album. So it kind of went in reverse. So the most recent, then we started backtracking. That was good fun. It was a bit of a nightmare because trying to remember some of the stuff, because there were certain songs. I mean, there's certain songs I don't think I've ever played live.
Oh, yeah.
So that was good fun.
We're coming down to our allotted time here, Nigel. I have one more question for you, and then we'll leave you alone for the evening. I asked this question to all of our guests, the mystery of rock and roll. You were a big part of the mystery of rock and roll with your band. Saxon had a mystery to it, but with the dawning of the internet and social medias, the mystery is gone. There's no mystery of rock and roll anymore. And if we didn't have the internet, we wouldn't be doing this with you right now. But for you, the musician and the fan, what do you prefer? Do you prefer that mystery and mystique that rock and roll once had, or do you like this new age of accessibility?
I think no. I mean, I think it's I think it cuts both ways. I mean, we're still quite private in certain things. But again, when I first joined Sax, I mean, for instance, all the gigs we did, we'd play Hammersmith, and after Hammersmith, we'd let the fans stay in, and we'd set up a long table and autograph stuff for them straight after the gig.
Nice.
That's what we used to do, but we had to stop that because we were there for hours. But yeah, I mean, we used to set up a table. We literally go in the dressing room, get showered, change, come back out quickly, and then all the fans would be lined up with albums and stuff, and we'd set up a long table, and they'd go down and we'd autograph it. I mean, this is straight after a gig, and we'd do that every night. But I mean, sometimes I think you get people that are over familiar with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, they think they know you, but they actually don't. Sometimes that can kind of piss you off, but then again, it's through sort of meeting fans. I've made friends of, some fans are some of my best friends now, because we just sort of hit it off and we're mates, we'll go to the pub together. Oh. So, in a way, I think, I know what you mean with the mystique. But then again, I think, you can get, the mystique can get too deep. So it's almost like the musician doesn't, don't look at me. I'm more important than you. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I think, there was a lot of that in the early, I mean, there still is a lot of that anyway, really. I mean, one thing I'll say, and I say this in every interview with fans and stuff, we never forget that. And we really appreciate all the fans. We never forget that it's the fans and people like you, podcasts and everything that put us where we are. Without you guys, the fans, radio stations, everything, blah, 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 we wouldn't be where we are. So we really appreciate that,
Well said, yeah.
We're very well said. So we're out of our time for the evening. Is there anything that we left off tonight that you would like to plug or promote?
Well, I've got another band now.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Hey, now I've got I'm doing another. It's like a side project. That's what it's called. 6 by 6. It's we've got an album out on Inside Out, and it's me, a guy called Robert Berry who was in GTR with me.
Yes,
and he ended up playing with Keith Emerson until he passed. I mean, Robert's played with loads of people, and it's Ian Crichton, the guitarist from Saga.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So it's the three of us. It's a three-piece.
I guess that's where I was kind of alluding earlier. I didn't know about this project, but excited. I can't wait to check it out.
Oh, yeah. And I've done another album. It was quite good, actually, because, during the pandemic, once the pandemic started easing off and we weren't gigging, so I was quite able to do quite a few sessions. I mean, I did a couple of tracks on the last Alcatraz album. And then there's another album out called The Flood, which I've done all the drums on, and I think we're going to be doing the second album. That's with I don't know if you know the band FM.
Yes,
I've heard of them,
band called F. Yeah, Jim Kirkpatrick, the guitarist. We did this album for this singer called Chris Uzi, and Jim wrote it all and everything. He asked me to do the drums. We're going to be doing a second one, probably early autumn, I should imagine. And I'm actually going to San Jose in a couple of weeks to lay down tracks for the second 6 album too. So
nice,
fantastic.
Keep busy.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
Fantastic. Well, like I said, we're out of our allotted time for the evening. We would like to thank you for your participation. This is how things are going to work out. When Jeff, the editing wizard over here, gets everything all cleaned up for us, I'll send this link to you immediately, and please share it wherever you possibly can.
Yeah, will do. Yeah, no probs at all. I won't listen to it myself because I can't stand hearing myself talk.
Understandable.
Oh, yeah.
We understand that.
Yeah. But I'll put the link up.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Nigel.
Yeah, thank you, Nigel.
Brilliant. Yeah, you take care, man.
Take care, man.
A lot, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Good night.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
pays their bills instead. Hide in the spotlights, fight the grip of death. You can have the air you need, but you best not take one breath. Hey. Roll the dice. Take your chances. Everybody knows the game is fixed, there is no prize. Everybody pulls the plug and says their last goodbyes. Move to the sunshine, fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug out both their